Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Roast. It's Sunday the 30th of January and we're joined today by Professor Richard Conroy of Conroy Gold and Natural Resources. Welcome, Richard.
Hello, good to see you.
Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Good to see you too, Kevin.
Well, now this week we saw news of the regulatory consents granted for the transfer of licenses. Do you want to tell us a bit more about what that means for shareholders?
Well, it means an enormous amount to shareholders and to the company, because that means that the governments in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, they have given their agreement to the transfer of all the exploration prospecting licenses to the joint venture company with Demer Export. And that is an essential regulatory permission. And I'm absolutely delighted it has come through so quickly. I must say, when 4 weeks ago we were announcing that we had signed the agreement, which is a tremendous thing for us as a company and for its shareholders, I certainly didn't think that within 4 weeks we would also have government regulatory approval. I did think it would take a bit longer than that, but I'm delighted to have it and to have it so expeditiously. And it enables us now, obviously, to go ahead much more quickly than might have been the case. So we're really pleased with that. And it really puts the company into a very strong position indeed, in that we now have the licenses covering approximately 300 square miles. They're 100% owned now by the joint venture companies, and they cover the entire district scale prospect that we have outlined by our work over the preceding years. It's all now coming to fruition. We already have the Clontibret deposit, not an insignificant deposit in itself, but we also have the potential of a whole series of other deposits. And now we've had to give up 57.5% in order to have this, but we're in the extraordinarily good position for shareholders, and I'm a shareholder myself, knowing that going forward we can hold on to 42.5%. And in the meantime, that our partner will be spending very substantial sums of money, 4.5 to 5 million initially, primarily probably directed towards Clontibret, because that's where we intend to bring in the first gold mine, but also covering all the expenses which we previously had to cover in relation to exploration on all the other licenses. So you can put another 250,000, 500,000 down to that. So you're looking at an expenditure into the ground, as it were, of probably about 10 to 15 million over the first couple of phases. And then you have the phase of bringing in the first mine, which will in itself be inevitably a matter of expenditure. You could put down, I'm sure, another couple of million for that. We're carried for all of that and still retain 42.5%. And as well as that, of course, there's the ongoing program and all the rest of the area with hopefully a series of other gold deposits and gold mines coming up over the horizon. It's an extraordinarily strong position to be in. Taken us a long time to get here, but by goodness, we're in a very different position today than we were on the 30th of December. We've got signed off with a joint venture partner with the financial resources of very considerable magnitude, technical resources, and now we've got the government approval in the Republic of Ireland and in Northern Ireland as well in the United Kingdom. So it's a very happy position, I must say, to be in. We're really, really moving now.
I think the only outstanding condition there for the completion of the joint venture was the mines royalty options in Northern Ireland. Do you want to just talk us through a bit what that involves?
In the United Kingdom, gold, or precious metals to be precise, it comes under the Crown Commission. It's owned by the Crown Commission. So therefore you cannot mine gold without the authority of the Crown. And obviously this is looking forward a little bit, but there's every possibility that in the Clay Lake property, which is in the United Kingdom, it's in Northern Ireland, that it could be substantially larger. Certainly the footprint of it is very much larger than Clontibret. We've done some drilling there, which has been very positive, very promising. And so therefore it's highly likely that the next mine coming up over the horizon will be one at Clay Lake. And to mine, you must have permission from the Crown Commission and to get that, you have what's known as a Mines Royal option. We actually possess it already in the parent company, but obviously we will now wish to transfer that or arrange for a Mines Royal option for the new joint venture company that we've set up called Conroy Gold Armagh in Northern Ireland. We've always found the Crown Commission very courteous and very good to deal with. But the time taken was entirely a matter for them. But the main thing is that we've now got permission from both governments for the prospecting licenses.
So obviously, under the JV agreement, it mentioned the aggregate compensation for the transfer of the licenses to the JV companies will be €1 million. Yes. Which is obviously going to be paid to Conroy on completion under the agreement as part of phase one. When do you think we can expect this to come?
I don't really like to say that we're not really bothered because we're in a good financial position, but obviously money is always welcome. And that'll, under the exact terms of the agreement, we could wait for completion until such times as the Mines Royal options are transferred or given to the Armagh companies, Armagh company, I should say. But whether that comes, as it were, in a week's time or a couple of months' time is really of very little relevance. The fact of the matter is we will be getting $1 million on top of the money we already have in hand. So it's a very comfortable position.
And then obviously the key terms talk about those 3 stages, which have already been mentioned.
Yes.
Just how eager do you think DeMere Export will be to start the first stage to trigger their 25% earning option?
Oh, I think they'll want to start immediately. They, I'm sure, will be as pleased as we are, or possibly almost as pleased as we are, to see that we've got government permission so quickly. I certainly didn't think we were signing off together on the 31st of December, that within basically 4 weeks, the government and the Republic of Ireland and the Northern Ireland authorities, the United Kingdom, would have given us, not only given us, but in actual fact to perform the necessary to transfer all of the prospecting licenses in the Republic of Ireland and in Northern Ireland, respectively, to the 2 joint venture companies that we have set up for that, or the 3 joint venture companies, 2 in the Republic and 1 in the North of Ireland, for that purpose. They have been most helpful and we very much appreciate it, and also the expedition that they've shown, and particularly at a time when we thought, if anything, this would take far longer, and with COVID and so on, much longer again. But no, we're very, very pleased with that. It's been most expeditious of the appropriate people in the various governments and authorities.
Great. I mean, it is really very quick and very good news. So if we talk about Clontibret, which is basically where it's going to be focused initially, as both you've said and DeMere have intimated as well by the previous drill holes, etc., to do the joint ventures.
Yeah.
Tell me what the land situation is like in Clontibret in terms of how much of it do you own, and as the mine would expand, how would that work?
Well, to develop a mine, without being too technical, the legal situation is when you're getting a planning application and moving forward, that you have to have interest, as it's called, in the land. And having brought in a mine before in Ireland, one's fairly familiar with the situation. And we found that in actual fact, most of the landowners who tend not to be very large landowners, but landowners with 20, 30, 100, 200 acres, that sort of size. And what we offered those landowners when we were bringing in the Galmoy mine, we offered a number of options, but the 2 basic options are, would you like to sell your land? Or alternatively, we could rent it for you if you'd like to let it, and then when the mine closes, return it to you if you so wish. And remember, a lot of the land isn't for as it were, digging a mine, but for all the ancillary services that you also require for buildings and access and storage and all the rest of it. And we found, I think, that there was only two people, two of the individuals who preferred to let their land rather than to sell it. In both cases, we simply needed that particular land for access, and all of the others sold. Most of them were in farming, and what they simply did was buy another property within the general area or neighborhood and put the rest of the money in the bank. It all worked, I think, very well for all parties concerned. But it is something which takes a lot of time. It's something that one looks at and should look at from the moment. There's no point. You go out to do exploration. The only reason you should be spending any money at all is because you hope you'll get that money back and get it back in large quantities from bringing in a mine. So you should always, when you're going out exploring, be thinking, well, what's the situation going to be, supposing in 2 years or 5 years' time or whenever we want to bring in a mine? And you do that in a number of ways, obviously in having concern environmentally and that sort of thing, and working with people, local people. Because remember, a mine is, or a deposit is where it is. You can't just say, oh no, I'd rather have it somewhere else, which you can in most businesses. You can say, oh, I'll have a hotel somewhere else, or I'll set up a factory or a data center or whatever it may be somewhere else. The deposit is there, and you're going to be working with the local people, and you should try and treat them well, basically, as you like to be treated yourself. And then from the point of view of purchasing the land, again, come to a relationship. We, for example, down in Galboy, came to a relationship with many farmers whereby we had an option over the land. We paid them a fairly generous amount of money each year. And then when the time came and we had planning permission and mining permit in our hands, then we actually acquired the property. So we already have taken steps at Clontibret to acquire property over the central portion of the mine deposit. So that's something which is, the acquisition of land is something we're very conscious of, are in quite a good situation, and will be proceeding with at the same time as we're proceeding with the drilling program and so on. Okay, so that's good news. And also, the land purchases will be paid for by DEMIA, I presume, because they have to have it in a mine-ready situation, or is that going to be something? We've already purchased land ourselves before we had the joint venture. It will now be the joint venture, as it were. And remember, we still retain a large share of that joint venture, but you're quite right. The finance involved will be coming from the major partner. Here we are, we're in Clontibret. And basically, they're going to be spending around 4 to 5 million euros in the next 12 months drilling holes and finding out how much gold there is, whether it's at surface, because we already know the gold exists from surface, or deeper down, that you haven't gone any deeper than this to find out how far the gold is. So what will this drilling campaign look like, do you think? How do you envisage it? Well, it's obviously going to be up to our new partner to decide the specifics, the technicalities of the drilling program. But nonetheless, the realities, which are there in the public record, are the sort of amounts of money which you mentioned, and several millions. So effectively, that means probably at least a tenfold increase in the rate of drilling. And obviously that drilling will be directed towards the objective of bringing in one or more mines. And so therefore, if it were, shall we say, directed towards a relatively traditional open pit sort of mine, well, then the drilling will be directed to that end. And I think that's the most likely that I imagine the technical people will suggest. But at the same time, as you've mentioned, the drilling has been relatively shallow drilling because the ore body literally comes up to the surface. You can see the ore deposit in some of the local streams. So it's literally there to look at. But how far it goes down is another matter. Our calculations in the first 500,000 that we've put together as a JORC resource is basically down to a couple of 100 meters. But we know we've done a few holes, but very few at deeper levels. I think about 350 is the deepest level we've gone to, and we're still intersecting gold. So we've no idea, does that continue on for another 1,000 meters perhaps? But there's certainly a lot more gold down there over and beyond the amounts we've already demonstrated. So it's going to be a tremendous move forward, and this is one of the reasons why we've agreed and signed a joint venture and been prepared to give up a substantial portion. That we've made the discovery that there is a gold trend there, and that there's one or more possibly multi-million ounce deposits there. Now we want to partner with the technical expertise and, of course, the vast financial resources that will be required over the coming years. So we're very pleased, and we're also obviously very pleased that we've managed to retain over 40% going forward, and that will apply to each of the mines that comes in. And remember, we're not talking about just one mine at Clontibret, important though that may well be. We're talking about the possibility of a series of mines, because the entire gold district is now held by, now that the government has agreed it, held by our partners, by the joint venture and ourselves. And for each subsequent mine that comes forward, the same arrangement applies. In other words, they will have 40%, or our partners will have 40% at a certain stage. And then if they wish to go up to 57.5% in order to bring in a mine and get majority ownership, then again, we get carried as far as that point. And then we still retain 42.5%. So it's, I must say, an extremely beneficial deal going forwards, I think, for both partners in it.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, based on that amount of money spent, you're talking about at least 10,000 meters of drilling in the next 12 months. So the reality of that is, you know, if there's gold in them, the hills, as they say, and basically that's going to discover a serious quantity. I mean, as you said, the JORC reports 517 ounces for about 20% of Clontibret. So that would give us a guesstimate of between 2.5 and 3 million ounces of gold is possible or probable, depending on what word you want to use.
But we're talking now, and this thing could it could really be quite big. But when you were mentioning 500,000 ounces there and multiplying it up by 4 or 5 to cover the entire Clontibret gold target, that is at a shallow level. What may be underneath that, never mind what else may be elsewhere in the district, but just under Clontibret alone, we've only drilled down to about 350 meters. We're still encountering gold. So when we talk about these figures, we're simply talking about what's there down to a couple of 100 meters.
Yeah, so the potential really is vast. And I mean, even from the point of view of Clontibret and Clay Lake, you were talking that there's an expectation of 8.8 million ounces, I think you said.
Well, we did, our Professor Earl is very kindly, who, by the way, is a director as well, but a very experienced geologist, did an estimate of the gold exploration target. Now, that's not a resource. It's not a JORC resource, although it was done to exploration JORC standards. So it's very thorough and very conservative, I might say, in some ways. We're very thorough. And that is suggesting that Glenish, Clontibret, Clay Lake, which are our 3 targets in the northeastern part of the area, that between them, an exploration target of 8.8 million ounces would be a reasonable target to expect at an assumed 2 grams as a grade. And a relatively modest intersection rate of 5%, and that would give you 8.8 million ounces. That is in addition, of course, to the 500,000 ounces that we already have as a JORC resource, and again is simply down to 200 meters. So you could be talking quite serious amounts of gold by anyone's standards.
The current market capitalization then of Conroy Gold is £10.3 million. and they're about to spend in excess of that over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that?
Well, I can quite understand the market capitalization. We have been, it's really a market capitalization as we were, in that we were an exploration company. We've been working away for many years. And I think many people were beginning to wonder, would we get anywhere? We were actually doing very well in that we were gradually acquiring all of this gold mining district and had the good fortune to get very good results. But nonetheless, I can quite understand a market price or market cap rather in the region of 10 million. But of course, we're now in a totally new situation. We could effectively spend little or no money ourselves, other than just maintaining the company per se, and yet we're looking at going forward in a situation in which, as in the publicly stated there, as you've been to some extent quoted, spending 10 million over the next phase as a minimum. In actual fact, probably be more than that. And also spending whatever money is necessary to get planning permission, to get a mining permit and all the rest of it. And we still, at the end of that, would still own over 40%. And indeed, even as regards that 40%, if we so wished, we could simply have a carry for 25% and pay that back out of the proceeds of the first mine. And we can repeat that, by the way, with subsequent mines. So it's a deal, and I can quite understand people because it transforms things entirely. We could be onto something very, very big indeed here. That I can quite understand the price of 10 million. It's not an unreasonable price for an exploration company, but we're not that anymore. We're now a company with a major partner going ahead to with the financial resources and so on, and how we managed over the last number of years, I really don't know. But it doesn't help your share price when you're going out every year or so to raise more money, and people are even saying, "Oh well, they'll be raising another million next year," sort of thing. Well, we're now in a very comfortable situation financially. We don't need to go out and raise any money. Although the way these things happen, I'm now getting a lot of people coming along and offering me money, but that's the way things are.
That's the story of the bank, isn't it? The bank will lend you money if you don't need it. But if you need it, there's no chance they'll give it to you.
I'm afraid so.
That's the reality of life, isn't it? So here we sit. We sit in a situation where Conroy Gold is now in a very different place. It's in a place where we now have 3 joint venture companies. We have Clontribrit, where we already have a position of land ownership or options on some of the land. And we have the capabilities now through this joint venture of probably 10,000 meters of drilling in the next period of time, whether that be 12 months, 13 months, 14 months.
That'll be up to our joint venture partner to decide the exact details of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that should then bring us into a position where we have JORC reports based on however much that they discover. And as you've said already, it's down to about 200 meters. You have drilled previously to 350 meters, and there's still signs of gold. So who knows? As you say, this could go to 1,000 meters. It could go to 351 meters, and that's it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We really don't know, but the resources are potentially huge. And DeMere is not here for the fun of it. DeMere is here to produce a serious gold mine, just like they already have serious gold mines that are producing day and daily gold pourings, and that's what they want. And I think the market as a whole needs to wake up and realize that you as Conroy Gold now are in a completely different situation. And it's happening. It is happening. Today's transfer of the licenses, or not today because today's Sunday. Thursday's transfer of licenses is just the next tick in the box to then go to the next stage. Yeah, let's hope the Crown stuff comes fairly soon. And as soon as it does, maybe even before, you will get your €1 million. And then basically Conroy does not need to raise. So you will not need money.
Even without the million, we don't really need to raise, but it's a very nice addition to come in.
Yeah, so you will not need to raise. And simply, we're now a Fortune 500 company, basically drilling to get to the point where they have 57.5% of this mine, or 75% if you decide to have a free carry, which again may be a possibility on the first mine, so that you've got cash to then keep the rest. Who knows what way it will go. But ultimately, Conroy Gold is now going to become a producer, not an explorer.
Yeah, well, we may still do some exploring, but we're in a totally different situation. Our primary situation now is as a major joint venture partner, and being 40% does make you a major joint venture partner in the actual development of probably a series of mines, but one at Clontarf for a start.
Yeah, okay. So the drill program is going to be in Damia's hands. So the question I will also ask you is, because people have been asking me this, is that, do you think there'll be a possibility that we can have some sort of interview with you and one of the geologists from Damia, just to say, maybe not now, but in the future?
It will be the situation, but I obviously can't speak for them, and they're a very large company indeed, and they're not on the AIM market as we are, so therefore they're under no obligation whatever in the way that we are to release information and so on. But I hope that we will continue, and we're obviously entitled and indeed obliged to release market-sensitive information, and we'll be doing that. But we're in a very different position than we were previously, where every drill hole meant something.
Yeah, I know, as we've talked previously, there will be some drill results still to come out, because there was some drilling done before the joint venture happened, and also as part of the joint venture situation. So again, that's for you and Damia to agree when that stuff is released, I presume?
Yes, indeed. But that will be released in due course.
If you've got one message for shareholders right now about how excited you are and how excited that they should be about the future of Conroy, what would it be?
That I have spent best part of the last 20 years looking for this situation, that we would make a major mineral gold discovery, and I am a shareholder myself. I've put in substantial sums of money into the company. I'm a substantial shareholder. As well as that, I have worked at it, and at times when money was short, worked at it without claiming a salary or anything of that nature. I must say, however, in terms of message to a shareholder such as myself or any other shareholder, in all honesty, one hoped to come up, and indeed expected to come up, with a fairly substantial situation of success. The odds may be against you, but I must say we've done it before a couple of times, and I thought we'd do it again. However, I certainly didn't expect that we'd be in the situation, either as a company or as an individual shareholder, in which we would be 40% partners in an entire new district gold, with a partner who has the very adequate financial resources, technical expertise, holding the other 60%. But we nonetheless holding over 40%, not just of one single gold deposit and bringing it into production, but of a series of potential deposits. My wildest dreams are, I must say, exceeded by that. It's a fantastic situation to be in, and one hoped to have something, but not as much as this. In all honesty, I didn't anticipate it.
And we look forward to coming to visit you. And
you'll be very welcome. You'll be very welcome. I think you'll find it interesting, and you'll appreciate the size of the area. I think it's only when you put your foot on the ground you really realize, we've got a large deposit in these few fields, and there are hundreds of other fields.
Yes.
We'll go.
I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to have to go leprechaun hunting while we're there, aren't we, Kevin?
That would have saved a lot of time if I'd only thought of it.
That's right. But Phil, let me tell you, there's no leprechauns in the Guinness factory in Dublin.
Well, I've already done that, mate. I've been there. I've completed the Guinness bar.
I've heard there might be some in the Bushmills place.
Bushmills whiskey is very good whiskey now, I can tell you.
Bushmills, bit of Black Bush, you can't beat it. Hey, Black Bush,
good whiskey.
Indeed, it's tremendous stuff. So, anyway, it's been a pleasure speaking to you again. Thank you for giving us your honest answers in terms of exactly where we're at. And this year is going to be very exciting. I think. Right. I think once that drill bit really does start turning in earnest, then I think we're going to have results after results after results, and then people will really start to believe it. But if they don't believe it now, I don't know what more you could nearly ask. I suppose one of the problems is that, and I myself could have to, in all honesty, share that it's so big, it's hard to take it on board, the potential size.
Professor Richard Conroy of Conroy Gold and Natural Resources, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, he's a thoroughly nice gentleman, isn't he, Professor Conroy? Always interesting to talk to him. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think we've said it before, but he can definitely talk for Ireland. There's no issues with that.
Can you imagine when we meet him, like a few Guinnesses, the competition between England and Ireland going on with me and him going? I mean, my voice is going already, and I only said about 10 words in that interview.
Yeah, I'll just make sure I've got my ears with me so I can listen. And
you'll have your head buried in your phone as you normally do anyway, so it won't be a problem.
You sound like my wife. Be quiet. Right. No, I mean, I don't understand for 1 second how Conroy Gold is still worth £10 million. It's bizarre, absolutely crazy. When we were doing going up to the joint venture, it reached 46, 47p, and joint venture actually happened. Now the licenses have been transferred, and we're now at 27p, which just makes no sense at all. But there are many stocks like this, obviously, in the market.
I mean, as I say, look at what happened this week. I think it's been referred to as Black Monday or Blue Monday. I mean, Blue Monday obviously was the week before, wasn't it, when there was talk about the moon and everything like that. But we had a Black Monday this week, which was horrific, wasn't it? I think UK stocks lost about 68 billion and Bitcoin crashed to a 6-month low. Obviously, riding on the back of those Ukraine tensions there, Russia mobilized 100,000 troops around the, on the border of the Ukraine or in Belarus and on its borders. Obviously, it was like an impending war breaking out. Obviously, the Americans started getting involved. You got Biden ranting off and everything. So it recovered pretty well into Tuesday morning and recovered some of that ground, the FTSE, but it's still very, very shaky at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Putin certainly knows how to strike at the right time, doesn't he? In the grips of winter. Obviously, you've got the Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2, running through the Ukraine into Europe. So they've kind of got us by the short and curlies, really, in terms of being able to switch on the gas supply into pretty much the rest of Europe. But very, very, even Russian stocks took an absolute pounding. I think they were down 6%, which is the losses to year down to 15% under. So, pretty grim. And you had a whole load of Fed striking the right balance between inflation, so not taking inflation seriously and not wanting to cause any further unnecessary turmoil to the markets. So not been an easy balancing act for them. But what do you think about it? I mean, from a portfolio point of view, it was pretty grim to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't much positive. In fact, I don't think there was any positive, really, to be honest. I think Ben's Creek held up the best for me anyway in terms of my stocks. And I think that's just because of the potential cash flow that's going to be coming through there. But in general, the Russians on the eastern border of Ukraine, a large part of that area always was classified as the old Russia, if you like. Not that what he's doing is correct, but Biden coming out and saying, I will disclose or put a hold on all your assets or whatever seems absolutely ridiculous. I suppose the biggest news is really the Fed, because the Fed normally sort of titters about and sits on the fence. This time they didn't sit on the fence at all. They're basically stopping the extra cash going into the market. Interest rates are going up next month, as they've signaled clearly. And they also indicated that they could actually withdraw some of that liquidity as well, not just to balance their books. And that's what spooked the market. I think it was on Wednesday night, because the market was significantly up and then finished significantly down, both NASDAQ and S&P and Dow, because of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was looking at a map of Europe and where Russia sits. And if you look at the members of the NATO states now that sit in obviously you've got your Western Europe and Eastern Europe. But if you look at pretty much Europe, Western Europe as it sits, nearly every single country in Europe now, well, not every single, but a large percentage, probably 70 or 80% of that Western Europe is a member of NATO. And you've got Ukraine there, which is obviously former Russian, former Russian country or former Russian land, as were all the former Baltics, former Russian and Baltic states.
Union of Soviet
Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the former Russian state. They're saying we don't want Ukraine to be part of NATO, and then America and NATO are saying, you're not going to stop us from Ukraine from becoming part of NATO. So this attack almost seems like it's the last chance that Russia have got to grab the Ukraine and keep that extra land and not have literally be totally bored and outnumbered by a whole NATO treaty.
Yeah, it is geopolitical craziness, really, and posturing as well, I think, because if it goes past posturing, then it doesn't even bear thinking about what's likely to happen. So, yeah, from that perspective, what should we be invested in is the question. I think the issue is cash or real things. That's basically my take on it. Anyway, I'd rather be invested in someone that's looking for gold or producing gold or producing coal, and it's going to come out the ground. These are the things, when things are not good, that should hold their value.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think pick a company that during a time like that, one of the worst days, certainly the worst day this year, certainly probably the worst day since March 2020 in terms of overall effect on the global stock market, is pick a company that actually stays green or blue on the day. And Ben's Creek was one of those. So maybe, that is a solid company. Now, the other one that did really well this week was AMC, Amor Minerals, one that we've talked about a long time ago on this show. Just out of the blue, they've got this Kunmani nickel copper sulfide project in Russia, in the Far East, ironically Russia. And they noted the recent share price movement and press speculation that there was a potentially interested party with a potential purchaser to sell its wholly owned subsidiary, which is a roster trading, for an indicative price. They valued the company an indicative price of up to £100 million. Now, the market cap at the time of the announcement was somewhere around the 20-25 million mark. I think it was around 2p. Yeah. And they rose on the day to about 4 pence, so that they hit about 53 million. But there's still around about 50 million. If that's to be true, and they have valued the company 100 million, then you're missing 50 million, mate, off the market cap of that one. So just keep an eye on that one. That could be quite explosive going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we both were. I mean, I was invested in Amor Minerals a while back when they bought the iron ore project, or they were part of an iron ore project in Australia, weren't they? And then they sold that on, and then it looks like maybe someone else is going to come in and buy their part of this mine or buy the mine. And possibly from a financial perspective, for AMC shareholders, that might actually be a real good scenario, because how many years is it going to be before the potential of that nickel mine comes through? It could be, I don't know, a long, long time anyway. And probably lots of cash and also lots of problems, especially where it's situated. So
probably a low ball value in terms of the value of nickel copper sulfide they've got there in terms of resources. And they were waiting on like EIS or some sort of feasibility study last time I remembered. But certainly, would you not, if you were a shareholder at 2p, would you not take an offer of 8, 9, 10p on this valuation? You probably would, to be fair.
I think everybody would be jumping ship very quickly, if you bought at 2p or 3p. I mean, probably the people who bought in the last year or two, you're not going to have bought much more than 3.5p, I think. So anything more than double or treble that, you're going to be extremely happy, aren't you? So it's a good situation to be in. There was some good news also with Chill this week, even though the share price actually did plummet. Two things happened. John Story, one of the main holders in there, and basically cut his stake from 13.7% to 11.2%, I think it was. So basically got rid of 4.5 million shares. And he also then bought in £9 million worth into Ben's Creek. So that also tells you something as well, because he became a 6.5% shareholder in Ben's Creek as well. But good news on Thursday, where they appointed as a non-executive director Mr. Thompson, who was the former general counsel, intellectual property for Mars Incorporated, like Mars Bars, and assistant chief counsel of Philip Morris, who obviously cigarette producer companies, joins Chilbrand Group Board of Directors. So this was a real signal for me. This was very, very interesting news that they're bringing in this absolute expert. He's had 40 years of experience, so he's obviously an older guy, and has had massive experience in putting companies and getting brands to the world, if you like, and making sure that the intellectual property was protected in these brands. Because I think Chill is not moving away from CBD, but it's not just going to be about CBD. It's going to be about smoking cessation. It's going to be about a whole realm of products that they can put under this banner of Chill. And with Viridian, it is, I think, the marketing guys. It's slowly, but it just seems to be building now. They've got a sales director come in. They've got this other guy come in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the results that are going to come out are going to be pretty awful, to be honest with you, because I think the reality of the situation is that the ability for this small company to be able to do the, what's the word you call it? The logistics of moving, distribution and logistics, it just doesn't seem to have worked out, because ultimately, if it had, we would have been having figures galore of what they've sold and what they haven't sold and so on and so forth. So it's going to be an interesting road forward. Share price plummeted this week, but it's made a bit of a recovery towards the end of the week. And I'm more confident now with these different people coming on board that actually, wow, this is going to be a brand. So don't look at this company as CBD, even smoking replacement or whatever, smoking cessation, I should say. This company is going to be a brand. And if that happens, then the potential is vast. How quickly it'll happen is another game as well. But I was very interested and I'm pleased.
Yeah, the other one was E-Star Resources, EST, the Kazakhstan-focused gold and copper explorer. They announced a batch of assay results from their RC drilling, which was happened in September 2021. Obviously, we had Alex Walker on the show a few weeks ago. And obviously, the pretty significant set of results that came in. There was a discovery hole with 63 meters at 4.51 grams per ton gold from surface, including 19 meters at 14.36. So pretty good grades there, high grade intersections from the first set of assays. And it moved quite well initially, didn't it? I think it hit like 5.5, 5.7, something like that. But as usual, you get your 20% profit takers, and it's back down to the sort of the IPO price around 5p or 4. It's certainly one to watch. There's more assay results on the way, and obviously there's going to be more work plans programmed going forward. A nice result to see.
Yeah, it was a very good result. I mean, again, I think the problem is with the market as well. It's Kazakhstan. It's like, what's going to happen? I think literally nothing's going to happen in these places, to be honest with you. It's just above, just hanging on above its IPO price or the raise price of 5p. So I think it's about 5.1. But those results indicate a lot better or a lot higher price than that. In a way, we've got a few of these plays, haven't we? We've got Mila, we've got excuse me. We've got Mila, which is like a one-shot thing in Australia. You've got A-Star Resources now, which is in Kazakhstan. And then you've got Conroy Gold, which basically has got potential for 20 odd million ounces. So comparable wise, in terms of their valuation, they don't make a lot of sense, to be honest with you. So that's it. The other one we talked about as well briefly was Extract Resources, because they had an RNS this week as well. Do you want to speak about that one, Phil? The Extract Resources, the fact that
can do. I mean, we did a midweek with Colin on the plans. Basically, they announced that there was a big work program going on at Ascot and at Racecourse as part of the Bush Ranger project. Yeah, I mean, it looks to me very much like that it's all being packaged up. You know, that things are moving in the background. We interviewed him probably a month ago now, and he said that they've made a decision on the board to kind of start that process, aim for around April. I hate putting dates on things because as soon as you do that, you're going to get people saying, well, they said April, May, and it's not come. So anyway, within the not too distant future, they will start to look at actually coinciding the trigger or the Anglo buyback and the decision to mine. They will pretty much be go hand in hand, is what he said yesterday as well. So I think it's brilliant. I think the potential is huge. I think that Bush Ranger is potentially a world-class asset. It's a tier one mining project. And if you look at other companies out there in that region, the Lachlan Fold Belt is certainly a well-endowed area. So yeah, it's in a safe jurisdiction. For me, it's only a matter of time before he does what he did in 2008 and 2009 with Kawara at the Kalambila project that he sold to First Quantum for $265 million. It's a question is, when is he going to pull that rabbit out of the bag and say, here's another one. We've got a major working who want to buy the mine, guys.
The interesting thing he said was that Ascot could well be bigger than Racecourse because of the gold and because of the geology that they've encountered in just a few holes that they've got.
They've got the Molly credits as well, don't forget.
Yeah, which has been going crazy, isn't it? It's like 100 and something % higher than it was a year ago. So, yeah, I mean, there's huge, exciting potential there. And also, I mean, we did mention it last week, but and there was another midweek gone out with Colin for African Pioneer. That's got 3 very, very good prospects. All 2 are joint ventures and 1 in Namibia, which basically should be producing within 12 to 15 months, which he's actually traveling down to do some negotiations.
Yeah.
And that's without any other prospects. And you know yourself, Colin's a wheeler dealer, you know, there are going to be.
I mean, you just need to look at those names. I mean, we talk about Demir Export obviously being very, very large, and they are a Fortune 500. But you've also got, you've got Sunfire Resources, who are no small fry. You know that they acquired a mine recently in northern Spain for something like $1.2 billion US. They're not your small fry or your small junior mining company. This is a mid-tier miner. And then you've got First Quantum, who've got something like the 14th biggest mine, the Sentinel mine, which is the one that yes, very similar location to where Colin was mining before with Kawara. And their license is 100 kilometers away from First Quantum Sentinel mine. Literally, like it's almost could be contiguous and share the same geology. So ask yourself, why would First Quantum want to get involved in this stage type payment where they can earn in up to 75% of AFP, for not really that much of a spend? It's not a massive earning really in terms of cost, is it?
It's not. Potential there is huge. Only one of those 3 projects has to work for that to materialize, I think, because you're talking about 5 million market cap. So yeah, exciting things. There are many undervalued companies, as we've said before. So it's a bit of a, can you choose the right ones that are really going to do very well?
I think a lot of it comes down to investor sentiment as well, love of the company. Like you get people on certain groups who always say to me, I can't do all the work myself. I feel like I'm the only person who's really like striving to get the word out about this company and how undervalued it is. And it almost feels like some of these investors just want it handed to them on a plate. There you go. And that they don't do they don't do any investigation themselves. They don't get any due diligence. They don't do any research. And that is when we're going to start getting the love back and the passion of, oh my God, I'm so pleased to be a shareholder in Conroy. I'm so pleased to be a shareholder in AFP. Is there anything we can do? Let's write a report. Let's write an investment. You know what I mean? It's like, it just feels like that they're lazy. It's lazy investing.
It's interesting you say that, because I saw that in Hydrogen Utopia this week, when Bob Smith and one or two of the other guys who are invested did like a presentation on HUI and PHE. It wasn't just HUI, and it was very interesting. I enjoyed what they did, and it's obvious from interest and passion and really the amount of knowledge.
There's not enough
of
that. There's not enough, Kev. If that's one or two people, and they're good proponents for the business. But if there was 50 of those investors doing the same, the sentiment would be very, very different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, there is no doubt, because the world is saying it, that the UK small cap market is massively undervalued across the board. It's not like, okay, maybe there are some...
Or is it that the rest of the world is overvalued? Is it that the small cap space, the nano cap space in the US and the NASDAQ and all those companies are all massively overvalued, and they need a re-rate. They need to come down in price.
Well, I personally think that there's going to be some sort of a rollover effect happening, where some of that money rolls from overpriced stocks into underpriced stocks, and we're going to be looking at a value play for a period of time, because often a lot of those value plays are also in the resource sector. And this is where we're looking at in the main, that a lot of these plays are very undervalued, historically undervalued, not just, oh, we think they're undervalued now. No, historically undervalued for what they currently possess. And you don't even add into that gold is looking very strong. Copper is, again, looking like it could do very well. The lithium plays are going, not necessarily the stocks themselves are doing very well, but lithium itself is, again, going to be in the same place as copper, maybe worse, that there's plenty of lithium, but how much is being mined for all of these EV batteries? There's not enough. There just isn't going to be enough. The same as copper. There isn't going to be enough. So I think Colin said on one of the things, this is the day of the small miners, because these small miners and adding, 7,000 tons, 10,000 tons, 5,000 tons of copper a year are going to be gratefully received by all the people who need this copper, because it's going to be required.
A lot of these copper companies and gold companies and moly companies are going to be seen as a call option to whichever metal it is, massively due a re-rate of some description for a lot of these companies. But we got to do that. We just keep banging the drum and keep believing in look at the fundamentals there, and we'll get there. But now we've put the world to rights. I think we should wrap it up for the week. Excellent. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll speak soon.
Yep. All the best.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.